Hey, this is Renee from the craft table.
In an earlier video, I demonstrated how to baste jewel shapes. In this video, I'm going to show you how to stitch together two jewel shapes to form a heart.
To form the heart, you're going to take a pair of your basted jewel shapes and you're going to stitch them together along this long edge by placing them right sides together. Now remember, when we were doing the basting, I talked about how your tail should all go in the same direction. Unless you have a directional shape or you're trying to fussy cut, it doesn't matter if you are going to stitch them together like this or like this. If they're directional, then you might want to pay attention on which one is on the left and which one is the right when you stitch them together, when you put them right sides together to stitch. If you have sew tights, you can use those to hold your shapes together, and that's what I typically do, except I don't have any handy at the moment. You can also use a clip to hold them together so they don't shift, and then the points stay in place as you're stitching. I use fill 80 weight when I am stitching my shapes together. When you're doing this step, you really don't want your stitches to show, so I like to match my thread to my fabric and to also use a thin thread and a needle with a small eye. So I usually have a size 9 needle and 80 weight thread. Here is a spool of the fill 80 weight, obviously not the color that I'm using, but this just gives you an idea of what I like to use when I'm stitching my shapes together. So you're just going to start at a corner. I have knotted my thread and I'm taking my needle through one of the corners and coming out the other corner. And I'm going to stitch in place a couple of times since this is the edge, just to make sure it is secured. And then I'm just going to sort of do a whip stitch all the way along this edge. And the goal is to just grab a little bit of the fabric on either side, and so that your needle is going through just a few threads of fabric and not the paper. After you've stitched for a while, you'll kind of be able to feel the paper with your needle, and you'll be able to tell where to slide it so that you're just catching the fabric and not the paper. Now I'm working with some Liberty fabric, it's Liberty Lawn, which probably was not the best fabric to demonstrate on because it's super, super thin and flimsy. But it was the first pink fabric that I grabbed. When I'm about to reach the point, I just move these little tails out of the way as I'm stitching. When I'm at the very end, I'm going to take a couple extra stitches to make sure I have secured that point. And then the last time through, I'm going to run my needle back through the loop to make a knot. There you have it. If you're making the jewel hearts pillow, then you're going to make 9 hearts. You will have 9 background squares. Fold your background square in half so you have a little bit of a crease showing the center. You're going to give your hearts a good press, front and back. Take the papers out, and then you just find the center of your heart as well. Make sure it's on the crease, and same thing with the center. And then you're going to stitch around. You can either do that with a sewing machine or by hand. And then when you get to this part, you're just going to tuck those tails underneath, out of the way. Happy stitching!